talk about what happened on Black Friday.
So a group of organizations, Million Hoodies, Rockaway Youth Task Force, some students from Columbia University and Alpha Phi Alpha fraternity put together a protest in response to Black Friday. It was called Blackout Black Friday. And we're targeting Macy's, the largest shopping center in New York City, and also has a history of racial profiling around black people. We were targeted and we shut down Herald Square, Times Square, had about 1,500 folks that turned out just for this one action at 1 p.m. About 7 arrests, and it was amazing to see so many folks that come out and really ready to turn things up.
And Alicia Garza on the other coast in California, what were you doing in Oakland?
We shut down the West Oakland BART station. Our intention was to shut it down for 4.5 hours, which is both the amount of time that Mike Brown's body lay on the street after he was killed by Officer Darren Wilson, and also it represented 4 hours and 28 minutes. 28 minutes represents how every 28 hours a black person in this country is murdered by security officers, police officers, or vigilantes.
How do you go forward from here? What are the plans of protest organizers like you, Alicia?
Well, our plan is to continue to elevate the message that Black Lives Matter and that all Black Lives Matter. It's really important to us that folks understand that this is a national movement, that what's happening in Ferguson is happening in communities all over the country, and that the sleeping giant has been awoken. So folks who have been enduring police violence and police terror and state-sanctioned violence for decades are now standing up to say enough is enough. Not one more Darren Wilson, not one more Mike Brown. And so I think what we can expect to see is continued and escalated protests around the country until justice is served. So we shut down the West Oakland BART station, and we did it in a few ways. So one way was that we had about 200 people outside of the BART station who held a healing ceremony. And then inside, we had a group of folks, including myself, who chained ourselves to the train to make sure that it could not move. We know that Black Friday is one of the largest days of commerce. We also know that black folks spend a lot of money, and we wanted to disrupt the system, and we wanted to make sure that there was no more business as usual until Mike Brown's family and families like John Crawford's and Jordan Davis's and Renisha McBride's no longer have to look at an empty seat at the table.
We're definitely coordinating. There's a number of groups that are coordinating efforts and responses to not only the situation in Ferguson with Darren Wilson case, but also the impeding case around Eric Gardner, which is about to release a grand jury decision very shortly in December. And of course, I think...
And of course, the Eric Gardner case, yep. Explain what happened this summer in Staten Island.
So, and I think this goes back to Alicia's point about, like, every 28 hours we're seeing a black person being killed. And here in New York, we saw the murder of Eric Gardner, a black man who was choked, was given a legal chokehold in New York City and Staten Island by a number of police officers, and one particular Daniel Napolitano, who is the person that's up for potential indictment. And it was mismanaged in terms of how they responded, and also of just actually like this whole idea of broken windows policing, which is a whole other issue. It's a cousin of stop and frisk, being arrested for having quote-unquote loose cigarettes. So we're going to see very shortly.
And he was taken down. He was taken 43-year-old father
right.
of
father
six, I think. Taken down in this chokehold as he said, "I can't breathe," right. something like 11 times. And the only right. reason we know this is because a young man was put on his cell phone video and started to film. And once the coroner said homicide, called it a homicide, the young man who filmed this was arrested, as was his wife.
Right.
The only arrest in this case.
Only arrest. Which I think opens up a lot of questions, and I think you're seeing this particularly when we talk about surveillance in communities of color. When you're looking at surveillance of folks, the tactic of how we can use communication and technology as a platform to really document these incidences, but still it's being used against us.